Appreciate all of your input. There goes the robot. And if there's any questions about the process itself, please drop those in the chat. Thank you so much. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Malcolm. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for the affirmation. My name is Laura Lillard. I'm a capital project manager with Portland Parks and Recreation. Like Malcolm said, we are really excited to share a dialogue with you. We wanted to give you all a snapshot of where we are collectively in the process of reshaping and reframing our waterfront, and hear your feedback. Before I dive in, I just wanted to ground the work that we share. All of the bureaus at the bottom of the slide there are working together, and we see there's a real fervent need to focus on the waterfront as one of the keys to economic prosperity and activity and revitalization of Portland's downtown. So this is a quote from All In, which is a roadmap from the governor's task force, which in a nutshell was a group charged with responding to some of the challenges facing Portland's urban core today. We all have different roles to play as city bureaus in this coordinated effort because we cannot tackle these challenges alone. And that's also why we are asking you to be with us today as well. And for this conversation, we're going to be focused on, as Malcolm mentioned, the role of planning and sustainability, who is exploring the relationship of land use opportunities and the character of the waterfront and the streets, and Portland Parks and Recreation. And we are addressing the downtown's 30-acre front entry as a place for regional events and daily activity and gathering to support a revitalized urban neighborhood. So with that, I will hand it off to Ryan.
Thanks, Laura. I work for the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. I'm Ryan Singer. I'm the principal planner for long-range planning and urban design. And BPS has engaged a consultant, Maya Reed, to generate and visualize urban design strategies that will better connect and leverage the central city waterfront. The focus is really on the urban fabric around the waterfront. And I'm going to talk today a bit about our scope, share some of the framework and big ideas from recent design charrettes, talk about the framework that our consultant has developed and some potential near-term strategies. And then I'll end with the timeline of our study. So if we could go to the next slide. So this is the study area for the Central City Waterfront Urban Design Study. It's pretty large. It runs from the Steel Bridge in the north to the Markham Bridge in the south, and then from the park blocks in the west to Southeast Grand Street on the central east side. It includes the east side, and really, we're looking at how we connect on both sides of the Willamette River, looking at sort of the Willamette River as a whole in this part. And then there is a focus of the area about 3 blocks in from the waterfront on the west side of the river. There are other important planning and development efforts in and around the area, including the Lloyd Center redevelopment, Reconnecting Albina Planning Project there in the north, Broadway Quarter redevelopment, the Portland Diamond Project, the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry redevelopment, and then the NATO Main Street land use plan. So there's a lot of other sort of exciting things happening, and we're thinking about how we can better connect to those things and sort of weave them all together. Let's go to the next slide, please. There have been several recent design charrettes which have generated some big ideas, and those include investing in east-west streets, both in the right-of-way itself and then along the sort of the adjacent properties. Develop housing, especially in the more traditional office core downtown. Strengthen the distinct neighborhoods of downtown. This really, the intention here is to build on what makes these places special, with the specific charge to have those distinctions sort of extend to the waterfront. So there was a sort of identified that the park is sort of the park, and it's sort of the same all the way along, but those distinct neighborhoods need to sort of better be reflected in the waterfront park. Rethinking NATO Parkway, this thoroughfare is seen by some as a barrier that could become an asset. And then reimagining Waterfront Park itself. The park is mostly lawn with some there's little permanent programming, but there's quite a bit of sort of seasonal things that happen there. So really rethinking how that waterfront works. We can go to the next slide. The scope that we laid out with 3 key tasks for a consultant to identify key corridors, nodes of activity, and opportunities for development, improvements, or activation. The image that is shown here shows the results of some of the very detailed field work that our consultants did over the summer, documenting the existing conditions and beginning to identify those nodes of activity. So you can see the little yellow areas indicating where there's ground floor retail that's particularly active, or some other thing that's bringing people out and into the streets. That could be food cart pods or just other activities. So we can move to the next slide. Our consultants have developed a rough waterfront framework, and really building on and looking at what we have existing. So the Burnside Bridge has 2 bridgeheads on either side that really are distinctive and identifying. There's the sort of Portland, Oregon sign that is very much an icon, which also is sort of big pink, sort of frames the other side. And then on the east side, there's newer development that does create a sort of gateway feel for the Burnside Bridge. So if you go to the next slide, and the issue is not all of our bridgeheads sort of behave the same way, have the same sort of level of sort of entry point. And so some of the things we're looking at is thinking about portals into the central city or to downtown. Steel Bridge has a particular feel. The Morrison Bridgehead has some opportunities. The Hawthorne Bridge does have some bit of sort of landmark with the lovely court building, and there's some very nice trees there, but is sort of like thinking about how to enhance that. And then Harbor Drive has a terminus that sort of just it's sort of a pretty wild place. If you go walk down there, it's a lot of traffic and but it's right next to some lovely parks and other amenities. So if we go to the next slide. And then thinking about the upland communities and how they are stitched together and how the connections happen. So Old Town Chinatown is a real neighborhood that has people living there. It has nightlife and other things going on. And then around the Morrison Bridgehead, right adjacent to sort of a more traditional office downtown, we have some opportunities for infill development that has connection, the potential to connect into the West End and the Pearl, where there's quite a bit of activity and a commercial hub. The Civic Core, which has the courthouses and sort of a sort of daily tide of office workers that still come there and are in and out and provide that presence, and that connects really well to the Hawthorne Bridge, both the Hawthorne Bridgehead and the culture blocks at the park blocks. And then Portland State University, the Portland open space sequence and River Place have sort of a more contained feel and their own sort of character. And in some ways they connect, at least the Portland State and the open space sequence do connect pretty well. But then how do you get down to River Place? And there is a grade change, and there's the street there can be a little bit daunting. So really thinking about how we connect down to River Place. Let's go to the next slide. And then connecting that to the waterfront itself, and how that influences, and we think about those things coming down and into the waterfront. So thinking about near Chinatown, Old Town as a place for perhaps neighborhood amenities for the people who live there. The area next to the Morrison Bridgehead could serve as a waterfront events or flex space. In sort of a place to contain some of those seasonal events. And then the waterfront destinations area next to the Civic Core, we already have some really good things going on there. There's the fountain, which really is active and quite visible and connects to the Civic Core. And then of course, Parks will come up with, I'm sure, a fantastic redesign for the bowl itself. And then thinking about how we can better connect to the river access, both across the river, across the bridges and the Esplanade, East Bank Esplanade, and then also the River Place, where you can get down and actually touch the water, which is sort of unique along the waterfront there. So we can go on to the next slide. So then you overlay those things, thinking about our bridgeheads and how we can make those sort of landmarks and connect to the community. All right, you can go to the next slide. So that's the big framework, and there's some big moves there that are starting to be suggested. But we also know that we need to sort of move quickly and have some near-term strategies to start to activate these places in the near term. So looking at things like pop-up programming and theater, movie nights, pop-up markets, overhead light installations, which we do in the winter time, but could that be something that gets extended further than that? Things like working to activate the private spaces, the private property with, projections on buildings, pop-ups for businesses and vacant storefronts. Interactive art installations are a way to bring people downtown. The cats that were done a couple summers back were cited as pretty successful in, sort of bringing people and engaging them into the urban spaces. And then outdoor dining, street plazas, and temporary sporting events are ways to activate our green spaces in a way that can be done relatively quickly. And we can go to the next slide. So here's our study timeline. We have done some initial analysis and concepts, which I've shared some of that with you tonight. We're going to look to be putting some of those boards and other things that were at our open house a couple weeks ago. We're going to put those online so that people can access them and have a survey so that we can gather some further comment on them. But our consultants are going to be, refining these concepts and having some conversations to refine and develop final visuals for some of these interventions that we hope to have for January that we'll sort of share out again to everyone. And the hope is that there's some exciting ideas here that people want to, sort of take on and adapt and develop further, and hopefully we'll see those become realized as in the next, either in the next couple of years or long-term, start processes for some of the bigger moves. So I'm going to hand it over to Laura now, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Jenna or Malcolm, did we want to pause and ask questions? See if there's any questions for Ryan before.
Sure.
Continue.
Absolutely, folks. So if anybody has any questions specific to the urban design study for Ryan to address, please go ahead and drop them into the Q&A feature of the webinar. It's just that little call out box with a question mark in it, the Q&A. If you want to go ahead and open that up, you can type in your question and submit that. Folks can see each other's questions and upvote them. If you're having a hard time finding the Q&A, you can always drop that into the chat and we'll get there. It looks like we have a question from Janet Ebb here. And Janet, if you want to ask your question aloud, or I'd be happy to read it for you. Janet says, it seems like it would be pretty important to talk to the property owners, tenants, developers about what they think could attract people to their properties, whether it's housing, commercial, etc. They are the experts. I don't think it's a given that a great park and street design will equal market success.
I think that's a great point. And I think we agree. As part of this, the urban design study, it's pretty quick consultant, although we sort of scope, but we did want to reach out. You know, we had some open houses. What I would say to this, though, is that we also have other parallel efforts. The Central City code alignment project is also ongoing, and we're actually looking at sort of the regulatory interventions that could impact some of the ground floor, especially the ground floor activation. And so we think that might be another avenue for engaging those property owners. And I'll also say that not in this session tonight, but Prosper has a TIF action plan that they are in the process of developing, and that they actually have like programs and hopefully eventually money to assist with those types of that type of engagement. And they're looking at doing a retail strategy and also a housing strategy. Yes, thanks for posting the Central City Code project, Jenna. Do you want me to do the next one? We're talking about street improvements. Is PBOT part of this group? Yes, we have been having conversations with PBOT. They are, in fact, they have an open call. I don't know if we can find that link. There's an open call for folks to do streetscape like plaza things in the next summer. So they're actively looking for partners for people to, change the street, if whether it's a plaza or some other type of intervention. It works best if they have someone who is interested in we're helping with maintenance, and they have a whole program about that. So I think that would be also another good link that we could provide for folks. There we go. Fixing our streets. Yeah, thanks, Jenna.
Of course, and PBOT does have some really great newsletters that you all can subscribe to as well. I'm going to go ahead and get that link up for you too, because that'll give you the newest updates as they come in. And I know some of the projects are maybe not quite posted on the webpage and maybe going to be coming in the new year. So always getting on the newsletters, make sure that you get the updates as they come in. So let me try to get that newsletter sign up link for you all. Great. Thanks all for engaging with that, either via chat or Q&A. And just a reminder that that was a lot of information in this presentation from Ryan, and Laura's going to have more information to throw at you all. So we'll have a large portion dedicated to Q&A and discussion. And we want to feel like we're able to answer all your questions, and you can also email us afterwards. But if we are ready to move along, I'll pass the talking stick back over to Laura.
All right. Thank you very much, Jenna and Ryan. Just to frame where we are, our regional government Metro awarded a $750,000 planning and development grant to the city of Portland for the Tom McCall Waterfront Park redevelopment project. And our application was initiated and supported by our partners, Human Access Project and Portland Waterfront Pavilion. So I just want to give them a shout out. They have long been in the space of advocating for doing more for the waterfront to support activity in downtown revitalization. So they, like I said, they initiated the grant. And this application called for an international or national design competition for the bowl itself, which is a portion of the 30-acre Governor Tom McCall Waterfront Park. And the bowl is shown in the photo here on this slide. The outcome of this grant will be 30% development drawings. So this is like a baby step towards moving towards construction. And I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. They will also be, the outcome will also include a cost estimate and funding and implementation strategies for the bowl, as well as a design and a vision for the whole park. This project will lay the groundwork for a capital grant that all of the bureaus that I mentioned before are working together to apply for. Tom McCall Waterfront Park, like I said, is approximately 30 acres owned by Portland Parks and Recreation. There was a master plan done in 2002, which is our most current plan for the park. And it envisioned a series of spaces to accommodate events and as well as daily year-round activities, including an opportunity to touch the water at the bowl. And in the 20 plus years since the plan was written, Saturday Market was developed and the Bill Nato Legacy Fountain, but really little else was developed from that plan. And downtown, as you realize and know, from 2002 to today has really changed. But many of the aspirations of the plan still remain relevant. So it's worth checking out if there's, if you can put a link to that plan in the chat. We are including the whole park to design in broad strokes, but we're really focusing with the park on the major spatial relationships and features and the programming, and for setting the context for how the bowl will fit into and complement the program for the rest of the park. And we'll be asking for a schematic vision for the entire park. As for the bowl, which is, we are defining from Salmon Springs all the way to the River Place at Clay. This area will be the focus for the winning design team to take into more detailed design and constructability. And this area includes the John Yon building and the area around it, that parking lot under the Hawthorne Bridge, and the bowl. This area is intended to be the first phase of construction pending funding. So another way to look at the two sites is that bubble in solid blue here is this project, which is funded by the grant. We are working with our agency partners to lay the groundwork and meet the requirements for future funding that will help us build the bowl. So we're starting with the bowl, and that's shown in the dashed bubble there. And we are actively pursuing funding for this portion. So in the early planning stages of the project, we are taking steps now to ensure that we meet future funding targets for construction. We don't want this competition to be an ideas competition. We really do want to build it. So that does take some of the extra consideration and coordination in the planning in these early stages. We recognize also that there has been some encouragement and pressure to not only look just at the bowl. So we are including the entire park within the competition, but again, with that special focus on the bowl, because the other side of the coin is the pressure to really build something sooner. So we really see this as a staggered effort. And we see the bowl as that catalyst because it has that special relationship to the water and reaching down to the water. So it's a very unique geography in downtown. And there are efforts afoot to continue designing the rest of the park as well. And in the meantime, as we are going throughout this project, the bowl will continue to be an active place for programming and events, and that will continue even as our project is underway. So this diagram is really about the current project, and it shows at the top the major stages of the project with a special emphasis on the design competition itself and public engagement. And note that the timeline is not to scale, and it's really intended to show sequencing. This first phase that we are currently in is about preparation. So we're doing a lot of these listening sessions, which we're using as an umbrella term for stakeholder interviews, open house, this webinar that you are participating in today, and several efforts to date that have been hosted by others in yellow, a couple of charrettes that happened this summer, as well as a U of O architecture studio. And then, of course, the BPS study is also included in the early engagement. And also in this early process, we are gathering existing conditions data and information about the park, like topography, soil stability, land use and zoning information, who are the stewards of the spaces, the memorials, the monuments, and information about activities and events. And all of that will be included in the site information for design teams. Portland Parks will hire a design competition manager to run the competition. So that's anticipated to happen in the winter. They will facilitate the project advisory committee and a technical advisory committee to advise on the design criteria for the competition, which should reflect the goals and values in site programming. So the project advisory committee will be about 12 to 15 stakeholders to advise on the deliverables throughout. And then the technical advisory committee will be agency staff to help with the feasibility of the project. Someone asked about the marketing of the design competition to a wide design audience, and that will be one of the deliverables for the design competition manager, a marketing plan and an approach to the competition. The outcome will have its eye towards construction and constructability, so that will be a big part of the marketing. This is not being pitched as a concept plan or a park plan. We're really looking at building the bowl portion to start. The design competition will be 2 rounds. The first round will be an RFQ to invite teams to share their qualifications and experience. And then we will invite a short list to participate in the second round with a stipend. Someone was also asking about unpaid design competitions. We do anticipate including a stipend for the short list. And the second round will include the whole park with the focus on the bowl and how it will fit into the rest of the park. The jury will select a finalist, and then the finalist will focus on developing the design further for the bowl. A couple of notes on the grant, because we got some questions about that. The grant dollars, only 20% can be used towards staff time. So that's really just project management and engagement support and coordinating grant requirements. And there will be a paid design competition manager, the stipends that I mentioned, and then the design development work will be funded also. This project is not started from scratch. We have a lot of great guidance and policy documents and efforts from the past that will support our work and act as our guide. And I have mentioned the master plan, and there was as well as a swimming beachside study and Central City 2035. These are some of the goals and objectives that came out of Central City 2035 plan for the waterfront. They are relevant in this conversation because they give guidance and support to really move the needle with the park and how it plays a pivotal role for Central City. So, thinking about this area as a key attraction, of course, native vegetation and canopy and habitat complexity are all considerations. This mix of river recreation and transportation, retail, art, culture, including room for large and small events and other park activities, and thinking about increasing flood capacity are all parts of this project. So when we put all of these plans and documents and past policies together, these are the key desired outcomes that we listed in the grant with our partners. And we are also sort of asking folks as we do these stakeholder interviews and open houses, what of these outcomes are resonating with folks? Are there other desired outcomes? How do we get here? And are there key ways and other people that we should be engaging to help get here? There is a list of programming elements that are starting to emerge from these early efforts and conversations. And of course, there are potentially others that we will explore in the project and use to guide the competition criteria. So this includes, that access to nature that I mentioned. There's a lot of really good precedents for how cities are doing this along their waterfronts. There is a trail connection that we need to follow, the Greenway Trail connection. Of course, I mentioned river recreation, and this includes swimming, could include light watercraft. There's the event space that has been a big part of the bowl. And then when the bowl is not being programmed, of course, how is the space acting for folks on the daily? And that is in maintaining with a flexible open space, and what would that entail? And then the other consideration is small scale retail to help support all of the above. So those are some of the things that we're considering. I know we wanted to do a poll. I'm going to look at Jenna, but I don't know if we have poll functionality, or is there?
Yeah, we don't have poll functionality, but let's open up the chat for everybody to participate, get some engagement here so you all can see who's in the room. My threads are coming in pretty long on this chat, so I want to open it up to other folks. Folks, if you want to participate and drop in some ideas, either related to these themes, specific activities, specific types of programming you see fitting in, would love to see what your thoughts are on what type of activities, programs can happen along the waterfront. What do you see for event space? What do you see for river recreation? We'd love to hear from you. So the chat is open if people want to start dropping in some ideas, and then we can all look at that together.
We have a bunch of questions to answer in the Q&A.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to those at the Q&A section of the event. So we'll go in order
Keep those
as they.
live.
Yeah, so just go ahead and drop those in. Marty and Laura can look at them and try to answer as they come in, but we'd also like to open them up to everybody during the Q&A section of the event. And folks, you can also go ahead and open up the Q&A portion, and the little thumbs up icon in the bottom is an upvote. So if you find a question really interesting, or you also have a similar question, go ahead, do an upvote, and then we can see that that one is a main priority for folks. All right, so we have some engagement on the chat. We're hearing less formal play areas like logs and boulders to explore, sand beaches. Ooh, that does sound nice. Urban swimming, yes, that's awesome. Saunas.
Okay.
Has anybody been to the Selwood saunas that recently started up? That's great. Yeah, so small business vendors, events that are happening once in the summer, events that happen year round, camps, rentals for kayaking, stand-up paddleboard. Exactly. Yes. Oh yeah, the music bar. The barges are the thing, huh? Restaurant barge, music barge. I think Laura saw a pool barge.
I did. I visited a pool barge in Berlin. These are great questions and programming thoughts, and we are also engaged in conversations with the permitting agencies, just in a preliminary way to understand a little bit about some of these ideas that have come up, and what are potential restrictions, regulations, or mitigation that might be part of having some of these program elements near the water or in the water. Yeah, these are great. And folks can keep them coming. I can also move on. I think I only have 2 more slides. Does that make sense to keep going?
Yeah, keep on going. Folks, feel welcome to drop in any programming ideas that you have in that chat. Keep those questions and comments in the Q&A section so we can get them answered in the order they come in and not lose them. But love to see the programming ideas in that chat. And then Laura will wrap up here and we'll open it up to answering those questions that are in there.
That's great. So there was a question about consolidating our efforts as a city. And as I keep mentioning, we are working together as bureaus to combine our efforts, and that includes engagement opportunities. So we aren't asking folks to weigh in twice. And ultimately, and this is a diagram that came from the Mayor Reed as they've been working with planning and sustainability to visually describe really what we're after here. There's a lot of really great ideas to revitalize downtown. Even if we're all talking about the waterfront, there's a lot of great ideas. But we do acknowledge we have limited resources. So it's very critical that we're aligned in our energy and in our vision, and like swimming in the right or in the same direction. And we just need to leverage investments downtown. And that's why we're all sort of focused on thinking about future grant funding opportunities together as bureaus to build on each other's work and also build on the momentum that we've seen in these engagement opportunities, and just really moving towards that cultural heart of Portland that was quoted in the beginning. So our next steps this winter, again, we are continuing to gather data and existing conditions, and still performing a lot of early outreach and stakeholder interviews. We are anticipating hiring the design competition manager who will help us tighten the schedule and tighten that sequencing. And we are also putting out a project advisory committee recruitment. So we do encourage you all to sign up to the email list for updates. And this is the URL, but I think someone can put it in the chat as well. So I will end with a series of questions, but of course, anything else that has come up as a question during the presentation, we are open to listening to and answering as best we can at this stage.
I love the dialogue about Owamni. I don't know if I'm saying it. Owamni.
Yeah, I think that's how it's pronounced.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up now. That's great.
It's great. Very good meal.
Okay, great.
Yeah, there was somebody that mentioned Minneapolis in the chat. Thank you. We love references and examples to other places who are doing things really well. That's the beauty of this national design competition, is just the breadth of experiences and perspectives that we can gather into that. And Laura, I don't know if you can pop that slide back up on the screen, but as we're going out into the community the first time, we are recognizing that there are still more people that we need to talk to. So we'd love to hear from you all. What else do we need to know in this space? What other questions should we be asking people as we go out into the engagement? Who else should we be talking to? We would love to hear your thoughts on those questions. We would also like to know, which one of the key outcomes feels like it's resonating, or maybe another type of outcome that could happen on there. So those are just some prompts to get you all thinking about the types of feedback that we're at this moment in the project would be incredibly helpful. But I also know that we have some open questions in that chat. So we're going to start answering them live as they've been submitted. I think we're just going to go ahead and read them aloud, rather than calling on folks to go off mute. That way we can just kind of go through, but you can feel free to raise your hand and flag anything. Laura, Marty, if you want to open up the questions, and I can type out the answer as you, or let's just do a live answer here. So the first question here is from Dina Marshall. Exciting project. Will the public engagement and or working group facilitation elements be open for bid?
And does that mean, I'm not sure if I totally understand the question. Does that mean a facilitator open for bid, or are we soliciting for engaging other people? I'm just not sure if I understand that question. Maybe Marty does, or if you need more clarification.
And Dina, if you wanted to come off mute and say your question to clarify anything, you're more than welcome to share.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, this is Dina. Right, my question was whether you'd be looking for facilitators or public engagement professionals to come in to help bid on the project.
Yeah, thanks. Right now, the role of facilitation is a part of the design competition manager that we are putting out an RFP for this winter. And we're also looking into hiring an Indigenous community engagement consultant. So those are the two pieces for facilitation that we are looking to hire.
I would add that the design competition manager could be a sole proprietor, or it could be, a team of, a couple of folks based on skill set. So I think that, as people are eyeing the design competition manager, I think that they should, RFP, there should be some consideration as far as, whether or not there's some partnering that can occur.
Great, thank you.
I want to answer Galen Whalen. Galen says, could be worth talking with the Swimmable Cities folks since Portland and Human Access Project both signatories and others that help support the signing process like the Black Swimming Initiative. We are in touch with all those folks, Galen. Yep. We're all in, kind of at the same table and talking all at the same time. And certainly want everybody to be involved as broadly as possible.
Great. All right, and then we have another question from Laura. Laura asked, this is great to see a potential of U of O architecture studio. Will U of O landscape architecture program have an opportunity to participate as well? This seems like a landscape oriented project.
Great question. That would be totally welcome. The University of Oregon architecture program reached out to us, so we're not going out and asking these studios to partner. These are professors that are engaged in their studios and that see this project as like a good potential learning opportunity and a place to plug students in as a resource. So that's how that opportunity came about. But yeah, that would be entirely welcome. I mean, coming from a landscape architecture background myself and having participated with some of the U of O landscape architecture program studio work in the past years, that of course is always a fun way to engage students.
Great. Thank you, Laura. All right, up next from Charles, will there be public and private funding? If so, is a trust or some public-private entity imagined to design, construct, program, and maintain the park, or is that to be done by the city?
Yeah, the grant that I mentioned that we are laying the groundwork for is actually a Metro grant. However, it does have a match requirement. And so that funding will likely be from a variety of sources, public and private. We need all the funding we can get. So there's not one defined way that we would be taking in funding. And that's on the construction piece of it.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. We have an anonymous question about this individual logged in a little bit late, so maybe they missed this, but also would be great to reaffirm. How are you defining river recreation? What are you looking for around this in the design?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and we didn't define it. I think when we talk about river recreation, it's just being in the water. Either that is swimming or wading. That could be paddling, stand up, paddleboard, kayaking, and things like that. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think it's probably important to clarify that we are thinking of human and light watercraft and not motorized. And so that's an important point. But, this is, really the only area in the downtown where people can put their toes in the water, but it's not super inviting. So we'd like to make it, a very welcoming space for people to cool off. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. All right, Caspar, this sounds like an exciting plan. Is one of the objectives to bring more retail businesses and business back to downtown? Is there a time target for this?
Yeah, this is, well, I'll just start maybe, and then Ryan and Marty, I think we all have.
Yeah.
Everybody jump in. Yes, definitely a needed ingredient. We don't think that we can solve, the sort of downtown urgency with a park for sure. And so I know that the Prosper Portland is looking at the West Side TIF district as being a potential way to bring in more retail businesses. They have a retail strategy that they're working on, and we can drop a chat in the chat, a link to that as well. And I'll hand it over to Ryan.
I think I'll finish it from kind of the Portland Parks and Rec perspective and then hand it over to Ryan. I think it's interesting, and we're kind of discovering this with, there will be a Central City Code project that will be coming out later this year, early next year perhaps. And in McCall Waterfront Park, currently there is a limit to retail sales and service up to 10,000 square feet for a 31 acre park. And so that's, number one, that is a regulatory opportunity that we can look at and explore if, we want to, as a community, expand the retail sales and service options within the waterfront and, within the park, potentially along the seawall. So there's, I think, a really good code opportunity coming our way to explore that. And then on a much broader kind of urban design perspective, I'll hand it over to Ryan.
Yeah, and we are exploring that code opportunity sort of as we speak. There's people in my office who are working on that. And I think the Prosper work on a retail strategy is really important. We see a lot of our work, including some of our code amendments, as really being sort of inputs for that. So the urban design work that we're doing can be, we're looking to identify streets that already have sort of good retail bones, like there's already some activity, and because retail likes to be around successful retail, like it doesn't do well. You're not going to be as successful if you're just like, let's put some a little retail over here. You need to say, here's some great retail that seems to be working well. What about the next block over? Can we get that block to also work better? Because then there's synergies if anyone who's just sort of walked down a retail street knows you want to sort of go to the next block and have a thing there for you to look at and discover. So that's really, I think, part of our strategy is we're looking at where the successful opportunities already are and how can we leverage them to sort of build off of them.
Great. Thank you. And this was also related to another question that somebody had submitted in the RSVP form, which thank you all for those who submitted questions early on, but it's similar about short-term activation wins that can occur prior and during the competition, design, and construction phases. So really looking at ways to how to activate the space throughout all stages of the park.
Yeah, I would just say Ryan's presentation shared some of the outcomes of their study will be that exact question about like how do we do near term or short term activations, and that's not necessarily concentrating on just the park itself. But that's one way that we will get to those questions. And I know that PBOT is also asking these questions as well, as I think we talked about earlier. For the park, it will continue to be a space that is activated and active through our events team through the summer mostly, but also like with Portland Winter Light Festival and other events and activities. So that is something that won't stop as we're continuing on our project. But part of what we will be looking for as an outcome in the design competition is, aside from the cost estimate, is the phasing and implementation strategy. And there have been enough folks that are so interested in like, what can we do in the meantime to sort of build the excitement and opportunity? And are there temporary uses or temporary pop-ups that sort of refer to the thing that's coming that we want to build, just to sort of test it out and explore? And I think that that could definitely be part of the ask for that phasing and implementation strategy. So I think that that's how we would approach it as well in the waterfront park.
Thank you. Anonymous question here. Are there conversations happening regarding how to accommodate larger events that would provide greater economic impact to the region?
I guess I would want to know, like, larger than the events that we currently host in the bowl and in the park, because those events will continue to occur. But if the question is how do we accommodate even larger events, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if folks are asking that question. But we have been meeting with Christina Fuller. I feel like she's might be on this call, but just about how many, what's the capacity that people are looking for. We're also looking at other cities in the region and what capacity they're building to, what's the gap, and being aware if there's a saturation point. So we're really cognizant of like, what's the number that we need to reach so that we can stay competitive to accommodate large events. Those are conversations that we're having.
Yeah, I would add, and this is just more of an observer of the thinking that is going on here, is that I think one of the goals is to actually accommodate these types of events better, right? So that the experience of going to the bowl for an event is great today, but hopefully in the future it's going to be amazing. And so in that way, yes, I think that would grow the sort of capacity, and that like more people would want to go there because it's going to be great. And I think similarly, some of the work that our study has looked at is how can we accommodate the events that happen in Waterfront Park today. And Parks is also looking at this, I think, on a parallel track. We've had some conversations today. Those could be accommodated better, right? They sort of are fenced off. People put the things in, and then they sort of move up and down the park throughout the summer. It's like, could we have a better sort of more purpose-built space for them, and how does that look, and what would that feel like?
Great. Thank you. All right, she asked, we've seen images by Portland Waterfront Pavilion, a stage for large performances, potentially with an overwater pavilion. Is that still a key feature?
We are definitely exploring an event facility of some kind. I think it's still open as to what that looks like and how far that goes. If it's an open covered structure, does it start with a concrete pad that just has everything in it so you can plug and play? Is that the best way to accommodate a variety of events, or do we go for it with an open structure? So those are all haven't been decided yet. These are things that we're all exploring in this sort of early work, existing conditions work, and I imagine these are conversations that we'll have as well with the PAC when we get the design competition manager on board, so we can sort of be deliberate when we set a program for the design competition. As far as an overwater pavilion, we actually talked to Christina Fuller about that exact question, like, could we do a floating stage? And it seemed like that wasn't really practical from an event producer standpoint, even though we think that'd be pretty cool, but just not sure if that would be a practical feature, but still worth looking into maybe, but just not sure if that's gonna be what we end up with.
Great, thank you. And this, I think we've kind of touched on this, but Janet Bibb also asked, I'm sure you've been talking to the event folks, Blues Festival, Oregon Symphony. Do their sound and audience needs complement other uses? Interesting site programming choices.
Do their sound and audience needs complement other uses like flexible open spaces and other uses in the park? We're hoping, because the goal is to be able to have a park that can accommodate these sort of special events and activities that are more episodic, as well as, the daily activity and year-round needs of a downtown neighborhood. So hoping that their sound and audience needs do complement other uses on the daily. And then whatever other sort of, small scale retail or other structures that can kind of accommodate both would be something that we're looking into also.
Great. And this is an interesting comment, if you have a point to bring with it, but historically the Waterfront Park events haven't added to retail purchases downtown. Last information was some years ago, but still an interesting point. And definitely something that we'd want to explore and have broaden that as well.
My understanding that Prosper recently did, I think it was maybe not retail sales, but it was a pedestrian foot traffic, and the events downtown did increase pedestrian foot traffic. So for what that's worth, that's one metric as well.
Find a link to that. Great. Another question here, events may or may not support nearby housing. Quiet, passive parks definitely support housing. Low-key events, perhaps. Right, because this park wants to serve immediate neighbors and also wants to act as a venue space, and not just for large events, but also a venue space for people to come every day to take part in events. Yeah, always a balance.
It's a balance. It's a big park. It's a long park. I think we can thread that needle, but it is definitely a design consideration.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why it's key for the engagement component to really make sure that all nearby residents are aware and involved in the community meetings and providing their input on design and sharing with project managers and our design committees, what their impact is and their perspective as well. So we'll definitely be looking to nearby residents to get involved and share their perspectives. Absolutely. And the final question here, we made it all. Thanks for being here with us. But our final question here, I see one more in the chat, but we also have, given the benefit of redeveloping the bowl will have for downtown, have you considered speeding up the process in order to select a team and being able to design and develop earlier?
Yeah, we do get a lot of questions about timeline, and that's totally fair. We, that timeline piece that I showed earlier, as I mentioned, that was really about sequencing. Projects this big, especially anything in water, really do take time because of all of the permitting involved and all of the, in water habitat and other sort of restrictions and regulations that we have on us. What I'd like to do is, when we get a design competition manager on board, is really look for opportunities where we can shrink some of the process as much as we can to get to the results faster. That's definitely something we're going to be paying attention to, but there will be parts certainly that are out of our control, unfortunately. But yeah, I know everybody's super anxious to get rolling on this, and we are too. We're really excited about it, and we know this is really important work. And that's also why both Ryan and I with parks and BPS and PBOT are looking at, what kinds of things can we do in the meantime before we start, with the digging shovels into the ground. Like, what are the things that we can do in the meantime so that we're not all waiting for this to happen before we start seeing the results we want.
Great, thank you. And then we do have a final question. I just want to make sure we're getting to everybody tonight. Caspar noted, is convenient parking a part of the retail and restaurant considerations? Also with this Portland Visitor Bureau, are they involved? And that's a great recommendation of who to connect us with. So thank you for that. And then the parking question.
I don't know, Laura, do you have I know that PBOT continues to sort of work on and think about their parking strategies downtown and how they can best serve the needs of the visitors. And I know that this is also something that City Council is pretty interested in and is looking at. Like I know there's one thing where the smart parks are primarily for shorter term parking, but they're looking at ways to could you extend that and things like that. So yes, I think that those are ongoing work is happening on the parking front.
That's great. Thank you for getting to that. So folks, I so appreciate all these questions and comments, and I know that there's so many more. And so I just dropped into the chat right here that we hope that you can stay engaged with us, sign up for the project newsletter. I know a lot of folks who RSVP'd included that they opted in, so we got you taken care of if you did that, but go ahead, sign up for the project newsletter, which will have regular project updates. It's where we're going to be sending out invites for future community events and ways to get involved. Share with us, the project team. Our contact information is also on that project webpage. Share with us others that you think should be connected to this project. Organizations, individuals that are well networked, groups that should be involved in the conversation. If you'd like to cross promote any upcoming events, we would love your support to get us out to more community voices. So in that comment I just dropped into the chat, there is a direct link to sign up for that newsletter. It's also at the very top of the project webpage. And I will drop that again into the chat. But we are so happy to have you spend your late afternoon, end of work day for some with us. Laura, if you wanted to pop up that next step slide just to kind of remind everybody where we're going to be this winter. You all will be hearing from us again soon. We'll be doing more outreach. We'll be doing the design competition manager hire. We're also going to be shortly recruiting for a project advisory committee to stay with us throughout the project. And so you'll be hearing about that. If anybody else is interested, we'd love to get connected with them. And then of course, signing up for that email list and sharing the link to sign up with others that you might think should be involved and be interested in this project. So plenty of ways to get involved and still so much more time in the project. And this meeting has been recorded along with the questions. So we'll be posting that to the project webpage with this PowerPoint so people can view the slides. We'll include the list of questions that we answered. Some questions were answered via chat and written answers, so those will be on the question list. And then you'll just have to watch the recording to hear the ones that were answered live. But Laura, Marty, Malcolm, Ryan, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the fine folks that are here with us tonight as we depart?
Just a lot of appreciation for folks for joining us today. So thank you.
Same. Thank you. I appreciate you all for participating. If you have any questions, all of us, I'll drop my contact information as well, but all of us can be contacted via the city website. And we're really engaged to have a very robust engagement process. And this was great. We got really valuable feedback.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to spend with us and hear more about the project and ask great questions. And I hope that you all stay engaged.
Great. Thank you all so much. Have a beautiful evening. Thank you. Hope to talk to you all soon. Share with your friends. Thanks. That's great. Wonderful. All right, I will turn off this recording.